This has been a long week in Parliament, but an important week. There's been a number of key Auditor-General's reports, particularly one about the East-West link and the processes that surround it. What is clear is that Daniel Andrews has squandered $1.1 billion worth of public money. That money could have bought more hospital services, it could have bought more schools, more roads, whatever. A large range of different public services have been foregone by this waste of money. Daniel Andrews stands condemned by the Auditor-General for the bad process and the stupid decisions that have squandered so much money, $1.1 billion, to build no road. The port lease has also been a significant point of discussion. The Liberal Party has a sensible position that looks at the long-term economic interests of the state. We support private involvement in our port, but the Port of Melbourne, Australia's biggest container port, is a central piece of economic infrastructure for Victoria, and ensuring that there are low prices for exporters and importers in terms of charges, that there is adequate capacity in our ports long term, and ensuring that the government's port bill is amended and improved in the nation and the state's interest has been central to the work of our party this week. The port carries all of those important exports and many of our significant imports. The cost of delivering and moving goods through the port is a central economic cost for our state and our manufacturers and our agricultural producers. So our future is very much bound up in the cost of running the port and ensuring that we've got adequate capacity. It's important long term to make sure that there is capacity for a second port. The state government has a poison pill compensation clause in the current bill, which would effectively count out any new port in the state for 70 years. And that's clearly not in the state's economic interest. So the Liberal Party has been working hard to ensure that we get suitable modifications in the bill, and we've made some progress, but there's still a way to go. That will be an important piece of business in February when the Parliament returns. I'm very proud of the work that was done with same-sex adoption. I support same-sex adoption and have seen that bill carried through the Parliament with suitable amendments. We've ensured that those who have religious objections are not compelled by an overly harsh piece of legislation to undertake same-sex adoptions for those who would seek them, but where their religious views mean that they don't feel they can undertake those processes. There are other agencies, a number of agencies who've indicated they'll take those same-sex adoptions and will swiftly and accessibly process them. I think that's a sensible outcome. It's a fair outcome. This week has also seen the tabling of several key reports. The Rates Inquiry report, and it's clear here that this inquiry is going to be increasingly important to hold Daniel Andrews and his government to account. Now, rates are a very big part of the cost structure that each household faces, and we've seen rates increase significantly. This year, rates going up by nearly 4% statewide on average, but the CPI to the 30th of June only 1.1%. This is not a promise that Daniel Andrews made before the election. He said he would cap rates at the CPI, and he's broken that promise. But into the future, we're going to have to work hard to make sure he's held to his promise. And the inquiry into unconventional gas, an inquiry I chaired, was an important inquiry. The government did not resource that committee properly, and you can't but help think that they did not want to see a sensible outcome from the inquiry. The inquiry could not come to a central conclusion. We were not given sufficient support in terms of scientific backup and the capacity to look at other jurisdictions like Queensland and New South Wales where these industries are in place. A balance has been struck. The Coalition has said that we support a further 5-year moratorium. At the same time, I think there needs to be a clear recognition that into the future there will be need for additional gas resources in Victoria. That will mean that industry, which relies on gas, and our domestic situation, our households that rely on cheap gas, will be able to have gas into the future. The government needs to do the work now to get the future steps in place. They need to have a very strong focus on ensuring that gas supplies are available.